Imagine a company so powerful it can change its prices and rules whenever it wants, forcing its customers, some of the biggest companies in the world, to pay millions more. Problem is, you can't leave because your entire business is built on their system. You're effectively a digital hostage. This isn't a movie script. It's the reality for thousands of SAP customers. And now the European Union is stepping in. It highlights a widespread problem facing many organizations, namely the dangers of vendor lock-in. In this video, we'll talk more about what vendor lock-in is and the warning signs to look out for. First, let's set the stage. SAP is a German software giant. Their systems are the digital backbone for many global companies, handling everything from finance and HR to manufacturing and supply chains. If you've ever bought a product from a major brand, chances are SAP software was involved. Now, for years, SAP customers have been growing frustrated. Two major issues came to a head. The first issue is that SAP is forcing customers to upgrade to their new cloud platform, S/4HANA. And that's because they're discontinuing maintenance and support for their current on-premise application in 2027. Now, SAP are giving their customers sufficient advance notice of this, but the fact is that this is not a simple upgrade, but a major and costly migration. The second is that SAP is requiring customers to buy maintenance and support contracts from them instead of third-party providers. This and related issues is currently, at the time of this video recording, being investigated by the European Commission for anti-competitive practices. Now, SAP is such a crucial piece of software for these businesses that it's very difficult for them to move to another vendor. And this is what we call vendor lock-in. It happens when one becomes highly dependent on a supplier's products, services, or technology, making it unreasonably difficult, costly, or risky to switch to another supplier. So what are the warning signs that you should look out for? Well, I've noticed two general strategies that vendors use to lock in customers. The first strategy is what I call technology prison. The idea is that once companies start using the technology, it's then hard for them to leave it. Things to watch out for are the use of proprietary technology and proprietary data formats that only the vendor's solution understands. Be aware of a limited ability to migrate or export data, particularly in a common format like CSV. Also, watch out for integrated ecosystems, where you might have a suite of applications from the vendor that work seamlessly together. But when you try and replace one of those applications with one from another vendor, it just doesn't work as well anymore. Coupled with that are limited integration options where it's hard to connect with apps from other vendors. Now, the solution to avoid technology prison is to look for data portability, where you can export data freely, to stay away from proprietary formats, and to look for convenient integration options with other apps. The second strategy that vendors use to lock in customers is nefarious business practices. This is what we've seen in the case of SAP. Things to watch out for include vendors that offer multi-year contracts that bind you in for a long time. Take note of exclusive contracts where you must use the vendor's services, such as for support and maintenance. Be careful of bundled offerings where vendors package all these contracts to make it look like a sweet deal. Also, watch out for any history of forced upgrades where the vendor forces customers to upgrade, usually by sunsetting earlier versions. And check if the vendor has a track record of unreasonable price increases. The solution to avoid nefarious business practices is to look carefully at the contractual terms and what you're signing up for. Don't be afraid to negotiate better terms. Also think about exit options or a backup plan if things with the vendor go sour. Instead of committing to a long-term contract, think about shorter, renewable contracts, which naturally gives you exit points. Research the market so that you know what other options and vendors are out there, and where it's possible, use multiple suppliers rather than relying on a single vendor. Now, it's not just the vendor that is to blame for lock-in. Organizations also put themselves in a position where they readily fall into the vendor lock-in trap. I call this self-inflicted lock-in, and there are two categories here. One is change inertia. This is where a vendor's software becomes embedded within the organization's processes and workflow, and the software is often customized or configured to fit the organization's specific needs. Employees get so used to using the software that they become resistant to change. There's also the fear of serious business disruption, particularly if the switch to another vendor goes awry. In fact, any vendor switch is seen as a high-risk project. The other category relates to finance and contracts. An organization might not have the financial funding to undertake a major migration project, or they may have already committed themselves to a long-term vendor contract that does not have any exit clauses. The reality is that most organizations rely on software to run their business, and it's in the interest of vendors to make these organizations keep on using their software for as long as possible. Whilst you can never completely eliminate vendor lock-in, you can prevent digging yourself into a deeper hole. Now, if you want to learn more about the 6 biggest project vendor mistakes, check out the other video here.